So it wasn't since LBJ. How many people voluntarily give up power? George Washington was known as the greatest president ever. Even King George says, God, if he walks away from that throne, he'll be known as the greatest man to have ever lived. George Washington set an important precedent for the peaceful transfer of power. LBJ is going to walk away, but that was at the height of the Vietnam War. But LBJ was he was old. He was elderly and sick. So actually, Joe Biden stepping off to the side, Joe Biden relinquishing power voluntarily is an incredible feat. It's an absolute incredible feat. He said not unless God himself told him to step aside would he step aside. So it wasn't since LBJ or George Washington. When I was watching that goodbye speech, it reminded me of Armageddon, the Bruce Willis's movie Armageddon, where he's going to take on the asteroid and he just wants to say goodbye to his daughter, who he wants to see her grow up and get married, but he won't be able to do it. So it was very heartwarming. It was almost like, he went from Genocide Joe. He's still Genocide Joe, but it's like Grandpa Genocide Joe,
My great-grandfather was only the second Catholic elected statewide to the state Senate here in Pennsylvania. And I remember they talked about when they're running against him in 1906, they said, guess what? They said, he's a Molly Maguire. You know what a Molly Maguire was?
He's a Molly Maguire. Well, we'll get to this in a second. This is a speech he just did in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He also mentioned about how the county judge is the toughest job in government because everybody knows where you live and you never have enough money for everything. I thought that was a pretty good line. So he was basically saying a county official has a tougher job than a state official or a federal official who has to go to the Capitol and they're really far away from folks and people don't know where they live. To perfect the union, is that not one of the end objects of this U.S. government?
Well, those of you who don't, Molly Maguire, back in the old days, when we Irish and the Catholics came, and then the Poles and others that were Catholic, when they came to the United States of America, and it began in the 1840s, and late 1840s.
The Poles, the Polish folks, the Poles.
They made their way down into Pennsylvania, a lot of them, and there's a tier in the coal mines. Those guys who got there last ended up being the last people in the coal mines. But a lot of the English owned the coal mines. And what they...
Okay, this is just so much history. Donald didn't build a damn thing. He's also going to say that in the speech, which he didn't. Donald didn't build a damn thing. So you're going to elect Donald so he could be a fucking piece of shit, twat, cunt motherfucker, right? Oh, I'm going to vote for Donald. I want him to be a twat every day to people, random people, everybody. I just like him being a twat. But what about infrastructure? You want him to build anything? I mean, union made, union proud. You're constructing things, you're building cars. The best jobs in America are union. Pilots, teachers, police officers.
Did was they
nurses.
Really beat the hell out of the mostly Catholic population that was in the mines. Not a joke. Not a joke.
Well, that sounds awful. The Molly Maguires are just beating up the Catholic population in the mines. So it seems like the Molly Maguires are oppressing people. They're oppressing people. So he's going to eventually say that he wished that he was a part of the Molly Maguires. Later on, he says he was a little disappointed because his grandfather or father or somebody is going to be accused of being some sort of Molly Maguire?
But there was a group that called the Molly Maguires. And the Molly Maguires, if they find out the foreman who was taking advantage of an individual, and they literally kill him. Not a joke.
Yeah, but it just seems like a weird speech to give, It's pretty gruesome, Molly Maguires, they would, not only were they pissed off at the employers, right, the corporation, the ones giving them the job and paying the money, but also the foreman, right? So the union leader, if they didn't like how their own union leader would talk to them, then apparently they would, just go all mafioso.
Oh, can they bring his body up and put him on the doorstep of his family?
Damn. So not only would they just, mafioso, they would, make sure they would go all Godfather, right? They would make sure there's a horse's head in the dude's, bed. So it wasn't enough to just, okay, let's just keep going.
Kind of crude. But I got to admit, they accused my great-grandfather of being a model where he wasn't.
Oh! They didn't say the very last line. Why didn't you say the last line? Come on, am I missing something here?
Everything.
New York Post, you goddamn bastards. Ah, you cheated him. You cheated him. He says about the Molly Maguires was that he was disappointed that his grandfather wasn't a Molly Maguire. Oh, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe the New York Post did that. So they make it sound like he's just kind of, in a long-winded anecdote. It was chock full of information and history. Donald's a union buster. So, it's all about just exploiting people. Get the unions in, get them building the things, and then stiff everybody. Don't pay anybody anything. If they try to unionize, fire them all, and then hire a whole brand new staff. Well, Donald didn't build a damn thing. Nothing, right? A double negative Biden's going to use. And then he points out that he spent $17 billion on infrastructure. Over 2,000 projects for the state of Pennsylvania. So, you're welcome, Pennsylvania. You're welcome.